us, and recognize that part of that dynamic there is a lot of the things that are said on social media are completely divorced from the truth.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's not reality based, and there's no accountability in it. And you've got to, I don't blame social media so much as the people that read it need to take it in the context that it's given.
Yes.
And they need to understand that. Yes. How busy are you, and is your job affected by the seasons?
I am very busy. I'm yet to wait for that moment when I'm, kicked back with my feet up, wondering what to do next, like I've experienced in some other roles in my life. Policing is affected by the seasons. A lot of times if you are in the time of year when people come together in open spaces, you're going to have conflict. And that's just the way it is always going to work. When people are coming together more than at other times because of the weather, the police are going to be dealing with some stuff.
Do you see any trends in policing or the people you're dealing with? I mean, there's of course a massive problem with substance abuse that's everywhere now. It's not hidden. It's not something that's happening to other people that you can write off. It's going out of, it's going out of so-called poor areas, and it's trickled in to impact actual, people that are now upset about it because now it's an issue. Yes. It's no longer just, it used to be you were a drug addict. Now you have a disease.
Yes.
And that's everywhere. And that, I don't think people realize to a degree that when someone becomes a substance abuser, that drives them so much, that causes them, it's not just a crime of taking the substance, it's how they sustain themselves to get that, and all the things they do to hurt other people to sustain themselves, which trickle down into things as little as breaking into cars and stealing iPods.
Yeah.
Do you see like those little nuisance crimes going up?
Well, I think that what you pointed out is a reality, that the opioid crisis that you're alluding to has hit every corner, as far as I'm concerned, of the United States of America. And I've never met a drug addict that can sustain their ability to pay for their drugs. Sooner or later, you're going to have to do something bad to sustain that habit. So there are going to be crimes committed in a large percentage of the cases to support drug addiction. I also think it's important to recognize crime is a part of the human condition. There's always been crime. And I think to recognize that it hits, even independent of the opioid crisis, crime's going to hit all communities in some way. You will have different crimes in some neighborhoods. The nature of crime will change depending on the people involved and locations, those types of things. But it's everywhere. As far as trends, here's what I think a lot of people don't know. We are experiencing a level of safety in the United States right now that is far beyond what it's been throughout most of the last, 30, 40 years. I think we're much more conscious of crime in general, in particular violent crime. But it's not, we're not looking at the cocaine cowboy era of the late 80s, early 90s. We've seen a significant drop in violence. But some things do seem to be trending in another direction. It does seem to be a spike in property crimes, and certainly some of these crimes related to drug addictions are creeping up to a certain degree.
I think what you said is very true. I think that we're safer than we've ever been. But anything that happens is put in front of our face in 100 different ways. Yes. So it looks like 100 things happen instead of that same story just got reported 100 times.
Very true.
And I remember years ago that started back. The first time I remember seeing it was when President Reagan got shot years ago, and they only had that little clip, and they kept cycling that little clip. Yes. And it was so annoying after a while because they did it for like 12 hours, and that is going to become the future of journalism in many ways, where you just cycle a clip.
Couldn't agree more.
And it becomes reality. And I don't think the world is worse. I think the horror just is reported. You can't avoid the horror anymore.
It's right in your face, and you pretty much would have to live in a cave not to know about it, and that makes a difference on the experience that people have when they're out in the community. We're much more, I see two things. I see that we're much more conscious, like you're talking about, of the risk that is in the environment, and we are less tolerant of risk, I believe, than we used to be.
Yes. We expect everything to be. We want it instant, on demand, at our beck and call. Yes. How do you measure success in your job?
Wow, that is a great question. I think you measure success one interaction at a time. You have to be willing in policing to really decide, I'm going to pay attention to the person in front of me, and I'm going to maximize what I can do for this person. I think you have to do it on a micro level every day. And then you also have to be responsible as an executive. If you're in a position like mine, I need to measure the numbers. I think there are some people that are critical of somebody like me who's driven to pay attention to statistics. But at the end of the month, I want to know statistically, how are we doing? Is the community safer on an aggregate level than it was the month before, the year before? Did less people become victimized in Norristown in 2016 than they did in 2015? I need to know these things. And I think that those are the types of things that fairly I can be held responsible for as the police chief.
I can see both sides of numbers, and I like numbers too. But what I've come to realize is that it's not the numbers that are important to me, it's the change in the numbers. Yes. Because the numbers can be wonky all over the place. But when I see changes, change means something. Yes. And you've gotta just like you gotta, put stuff inside if it's going to rain. You've got to monitor the things around you. And I think that this technology has made us, just like it brings to the forefront that bad things are happening, I think it's also weakened whatever natural ability we have to pay attention to our surroundings and survive. I think it's weakened us to put us in a position where we are more victims of these petty crimes and assaults and things. Because I see people walking down the street all the time. You don't have to be a ninja anymore. You can get in and out of a building because nobody's looking up anymore.
That's so true.
And I walk down and I see somebody walking down the street holding $1,000 phone, and they're walking by people that are sitting on the sidewalk and won't have $1,000 in this lifetime, and just setting themselves up for something to happen.
Yes.
Yeah. And it just seems there's just such a distinct difference. I mean, it used to be when you had something that was valuable, you protected it. You almost coveted it. You just let people take a glimpse at it. But now these phones and everything, we've got $1,000 pieces of jewelry, I call it, hanging off of us all the time.
Absolutely. And I think, I think what you're alluding to there is also a problem that we've got to call out and recognize of. If you are going to live in a community, you're going to have to engage with the people that you come close to. If you are locked inside of your phone, if your brain is locked inside of your technology, the experience that you're going to bring to the community isn't one that's going to be pleasant to anybody. So you not only leave yourself vulnerable to be victimized, but it's not a very nice place to be if nobody is taking the time to interact with each other in positive ways. So, that's an extreme, but I think too many people aren't paying attention to other humans.
Well, you've got to participate in your life. You've got to participate in your safety. And it's like I say about this, you can't outsource your safety, and you can't outsource the quality of your life. And if you just pay taxes, like many people say, well, I pay my taxes. So if you just pay taxes, then all you're going to get is government. Exactly. And we all know government isn't enough.
It's not enough.
You have to participate if you want it to be a better world. What do you do, recruitment? is there anything that do you have a value for getting people from the community? Is there because I know that I know a lot of people that I see a lot of people on the fire side that think about becoming police officers, but the cost, there's a cost now associated with it, because some people want you to get your Act 120, which is a fulfillment you need prior. And I think that I understand why they're doing that, but I almost feel like that's a exclusionary thing, that there's some people that could help that community that can't afford that Act 120, and we may miss out on a good cop.
Absolutely right. So quite some time ago, we got rid of the requirement that a candidate for police officer in Norristown is required to have Act 120, which is the state requirement of training that a police officer has to go through before they can be hired. We got rid of that for the exact reason that you described. You're going to be missing a lot of great people who can't afford to put themselves through the police academy. So that's not a requirement that we hold.
And do they have to get it within a certain period of time after? So
if we hire somebody who does not have Act 120 certification, we will pay for them to go to the police academy. They'll go as our employees.
See, that's a much better way of doing it.
Absolutely.
Because everybody has a chance. And
that's how I went through the police academy. There's no way I wouldn't be a police officer if I had to pay the, $5,000 or whatever it is that it costs to go to the police academy. I'd be doing something else.
Well, I see a lot of people that go and they have the money to pay the money, and they get it, and that puts them in line in front of people that I think are better souls for doing the job. You know, so that's I'm glad to know you guys do it that way.
I do, yes.
What would you like to tell the public about your job and your interaction with them, and how they can help them?
Well, so I'd like to say that, keep in mind that the police are no different than anybody else. We suit up every morning and we leave home, we leave our kids, we leave our families, and we're going out to do a job. It is a job that is not grueling physically most of the time, but it's grueling emotionally. The vast majority of your time as a police officer is interacting with somebody when they're not really happy. Most of the people that we deal with aren't at their best or not having a good day. And frankly, that can change who you are as a person when you're used to dealing with people every day, and there's a lot of animosity and adversity that you're constantly trying to work through. I think it's important that the public have a degree of compassion for the police, a degree of understanding, and at the same time, allow no exceptions for poor behavior. I think the police need to be held to a higher standard. That is very real. When you have the power that a police officer brings to the community, don't accept a police officer who is rude to you. Don't accept a police officer that calls you out your name or uses a word that they shouldn't use. Do exactly what you would do if that happened at the Walmart. Talk to the boss. I think the public needs to do both things, hold the police accountable, but also hold the police in a compassionate space in their hearts and minds, because we're out there doing a job that most people are not willing to do.
So treat them like humans and expect them to treat you like humans.
Absolutely right. It needs to work both ways. And one thing I believe about the police, I say, we're all pretty much the same in terms of how we feel about our parents. And the reality is we love our parents because they loved us first, right? And I think it needs to be that same way for the police. We need to love the community first, and then they are going to love us back. We can't wait for people to think that we're the most wonderful beings out there. We've got to show that kindness and compassion, and I believe that will pay dividends, and we're going to get that back to us.
And before we go to the after show, the last question, an easy one. What do you think your legacy will be?
That is a powerful... believe it or not, I'm somebody who talks about that all the time with my team. I want to walk away from a police department and a community that's better because I was there. That's something that I think that we all need to think about. What conversation are you driving when you leave? Do people feel better because of what you've done? Who did you leave behind? Are they in a better circumstance